Moderation helps everybody feel safe. I don't know. We need a moderator here. So yeah, we can do it like this. Let's see if people show up. So anyway, so I'm live on YouTube right now. So hey YouTube, what's up guys? We'll see if anybody. Well, we don't have anybody here yet. So we'll just do that. See,
right?
I got you by like an inch and a half.
I think it's more than that.
Do I? Okay.
Yeah.
What do you weigh? What do you weigh right now?
I was like 245 this morning.
I'm 255 right now. So
yeah.
Anyway, I was down to like 248 before vacation, and then
Right. Well, I was a solid 315 and change when I met you.
Yeah,
so
that's right. Yeah, that's
a little bit of a change.
All right. Well, let me see. I don't know how this YouTube. Let me see if I can see comments here. Because, hi, Mr. Shawn Baker, Garuda Legends. So I can see that one. So, so if we'll see, I think it should usually more people. A lot. Okay. So here comes people. So hi from Croatia. Hey guys. So I got with me. This is Jeff Smith. He just happened to be in the neighborhood dropping by. He's a proprietor of Colorado Craft Beef, and he's out of Colorado, and he's brought some meat up, and we're gonna cook some up, and he's gonna tell us a little bit about it and just shoot the breeze. And so I'll try to. If you guys have questions about meat or that stuff or other stuff, we can talk about there. Texas here from B-Bag. Hey, Dr. Shawn. So
yeah, I just kept driving north until I could put a hoodie on. That's all I did. It was 104 degrees at the ranch last week.
Hi, India or Australia, Croatia. So we got a bunch of folks in here. So you guys, if you guys have questions, I'll try to get to them. But we're just gonna shoot the shit and maybe get some beef. So you want to grab some? I don't know. Can you grab that beef in by yourself?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay. So sorry. I got to feed the dogs too.
Yeah.
So anyway, hopefully you guys are doing well. Like I said, an update for myself. I just got back in from out of the country. I'm at the house, and so we're going to be probably cooking some stuff in the auto over there. You see the little one. There's a schwank as well. There's a Traeger there. Mr. Max, Maxie, smile. Say hi to everybody. Maxie just got back from getting groomed up, so he smells nice because he's smelling pretty rank a little earlier. And then here comes Sasha. Sasha's there too. She goes, Sasha, come here. Show me your fish. So she's got her little toy fish with her. So yeah, we're gonna. He's got a bunch of meat, and so what I thought we would do is maybe talk a little bit about the meat, how it's produced, how to cook it. Like some good tips on that. So we're gonna stick some stuff in the freezer. My freezer's getting a little low, and Jeff has been kind enough to bring up some meat, so that is the swank worth it. Yeah, I think the swank. I can't remember the cost on the swank. God, I gotta clean it. It's been a little dirty here. I've got both the swank and the auto, and they sent them to me both. So they're I can't remember which one costs more. And there's different models probably. Look at that big old. This makes me smile. There's here comes a guy with a big old cooler of beef, and so we'll see what we got in there. We can talk about the process. So this is all your Colorado craft stuff.
It is.
And wow, what do we got? So let's
Greg's box. So we'll move Greg's out of the way.
Okay, so yeah, you gotta give some to Greg. He's looking a little puny. He needs to eat some more. So I see some tri-tips in there. It looks like.
Yeah.
Some of what we got here.
So this is a tri-tip.
Let's show that to the folks here.
There you go.
So this is a tri-tip. Yeah, these are well nice and marbled. What do you do with tri-tips? This is something that I never heard of until I moved to California.
Sure.
So is that something that's popular in Colorado, or is that just
usually west of the Mississippi?
West of the Mississippi.
It started in California as the Santa Maria roast.
Right. Okay.
And now it's a tri-tip because it's shaped like a triangle.
Right. So it's a couple different muscles.
Yeah,
right.
And it comes off the bottom side of the sirloin, so it's part of the sirloin family.
Okay.
A lot of people sous vide it.
Yeah, I do that a lot.
And then do the reverse sear.
Okay.
I'm more of a smoker fan, so I'll do a low smoke and then hit it at high heat and just crust it.
So I throw it on the Traeger for I remember you brought one over here one time. We did it, and you said like 225 or 250. I can't remember what was the temperature.
Usually as low as you can get it, so you get more of the smoke
so
flavor.
like 165, 180.
Yeah, and then usually just get it up to medium temp and then just torch the outside.
Okay.
So
what else? Let's just before we show. So tell us about Colorado Craft, because because you told me that you were part of a larger family operation. You guys carved out a niche craft beef, so it's more specialized, right?
Yeah. So my wife is 5th generation on the family ranch, founded in 1913, about a quarter mile from where we live today.
Okay.
And in 2017, we start moving in more of a direct-to-consumer direction because the commercial ranch is doing fine, but in the space we're at, we needed a better connection to the market. Luckily, my wife and I come from a background of finance, business, sales, and all those different things. So we decided that our skill set would better match up to this direct-to-consumer model, and we're 5 years in. Shipped to all 50 states. We actually just instituted free shipping on the website on all the beef boxes, free shipping nationally. I think Hawaii and Alaska are excluded from that just based on the pricing. But recently, as you're aware, we brought on some partners. Shout out to Origin, the shirt I'm wearing today. We've partnered with a lot of like-minded American first individuals. So we brought in the founders of Origin, the founders of Jocko Fuel, to include Jocko Willink, the retired SEAL, quite a few other veterans in the space, a lot of Navy veterans. We have some Army veterans. We don't have any Marine Corps veterans in the investor group, but our marketing guy is a Marine Corps veteran from Iraq. Much like yourself, also a veteran. So shout out to that. A lot of American first policies, a lot of growth within the country, and trying to feed people as good as we can. And with that investment, we actually purchased the beef processing facility we've been utilizing. So now we're vertically integrated top to bottom.
Awesome. So your plan is to scale up and provide more beef. And this stuff is, I got to tell you guys, this is not just because you have the beef here is really, really good. I mean, the flavor is just, I like it. I mean, I think it's, first time I tasted it, I was like, this tastes unique. And every time I taste it, I know it. I'm like, this is Colorado craft. I mean, it's got a distinct flavor, and I really enjoy it. So let's talk about some of these steaks. Of course, these guys.
Your favorite?
These are ribeye steaks, and these are nice and marbled, and obviously just cook them on the grill. I think. I mean, sometimes I'll sous vide. So Shane's asking about, do we have military discounts or anything like that? Is there anything you guys have any like discount codes and stuff like? So they do. Okay, so
yeah, we do.
Do you want to share that or something like that?
I've got to get it up on the website. That's part of the marketing list we're doing. Hit us up on Instagram, and we will get that live.
What's the Instagram handle?
Instagram is Colorado Craft Beef.
Colorado Craft Beef. Okay. So I love these. These things are good. I haven't eaten yet, so I'm salivating thinking about it. We got a couple ribeyes we're going to be cooking up, and a couple fillets, I think, for our stuff. But so ribeyes, I mean, what traditional ways? Most people just hot sear in a pan or cook them you smoke them sometimes?
Well, I'll usually do a smoke with a reverse sear, but the most important thing with those is, especially when they're cut in that inch plus, inch and a half range, is make sure you bring up the internal side of the beef up to temperature so that when you do sear it and you hit it on the grill, you get that medium flavor in the middle, so that you have more of a logical cook through there.
Okay, this is an unusual cut. Most people haven't heard. This is called beef flap meat. So what is beef flap meat? How do you cook that?
So that's also called the bavette.
Okay,
the bottom sirloin, depending on where you're at in the world. Comes off the bottom side of the sirloin. It's exceptionally flavorful, very textured steak. So if you've ever been to Fogo de Chao and they bring that bottom sirloin out and they just shave it off, same steak.
Okay.
Very, very well marbled. My favorite thing to do with them is actually, if you look at the natural triangular shape where it's fatter on one end, I butterfly it open to expose the internal marbling, and then just hit it hot on a grill, and it makes the best carne asada.
Nice. Carne asada. And then this looks like there's a flank. I'm not sure. Let me look at this one if I'm just mad.
No, that's a skirt.
That's a skirt. Okay,
yeah.
So skirt, because it's folded up. So tell me, what do you do with skirt steak? So you guys have heard it. But a lot of people don't. Skirt steak's good, man.
I really like it.
What do you think? What's the best way to do a skirt? I know skirt goes a lot of time in fajitas.
Yeah, fajitas, or I just grill it and throw it with like some roasted limes or something. Do like a chimichurri with it. Can be really good. That's a flank.
Oh, this is a flank. Okay, this is a big old flank. And so where's the flank coming from?
Flank comes from the flank of the animal, right in front of the rear quarter. One of your leaner steaks. But one of the cool things is we age everything for 21 days as a carcass before we break it down into steaks. So our flank is actually really tender as compared to what you can usually find.
Yeah, and because that's whole carcass aging. Why do you do that? And what does that do?
So what you're trying to do is get an enzymatic reaction that starts to break down connective tissue. You have a lot of water weight that comes out of the animal, so you have a denser, more flavorful steak. And then when everything's together, you don't get near the shrink on the steaks that you would get in a more commercial aging setting. So if you go to a high-end steakhouse and they have 21-day or 45-day age, they'll age that ribeye. Then they have to trim all the pericarp off, and then they have this and they have that.
So they lose a lot.
You waste a lot, but then you also don't get that movement of flavor across different cuts, and you have more air exposure. So doing it as a carcass is most ideal. That's what we do in the hunting industry, right? Like if you harvest a deer, you're going to let it hang for a week so that you can get some of that.
So what in the normal, like if I go to the store at the grocery store, it's been wet aged a little bit. I mean, something dry aged for a long. What am I typically getting at the grocery store compared to what you guys at Colorado Craft have?
So if you get something at a grocery store, typically you go to one of the big processing facilities that harvest, 6 or 8 or 10,000 cows a day. They're going to take those cows, they're going to bring them down to temperature, get them through rigor mortis so they're down to a spot they can fabricate the carcasses into steaks. And within 3 days of that animal coming in the facility, they're out in a box. And within 3 to 4 days, they're in a grocery store. Now, that system works well. It's how we feed everybody, so there's certainly nothing wrong with it. It's just different. You get different flavors. You get more tenderness with the way we do it. But if you try to do what we do at 6,000 animals a day, and you want to age everything for 21 days, you're talking the biggest Amazon warehouse ever at 38 degrees. And you just can't have a real estate problem like that.
Yeah, interesting. All right, let's see what else we got in here. We got this one is a, like we talked about. Oh, this one, what is that?
Let's skip that one. That's kind of an ugly little sirloin with a fat cap on it. I thought you'd like that, so I tossed it in.
What is this?
There's your beef ribs.
Oh, I don't. This is the one thing I tell you what. I've got a lot of ribs in the freezer because I don't know what to do with these that well. So what's the best way to do? I mean, a lot low and slow. What's the best way to do ribs?
My favorite thing to do with ribs is go low and slow, so you start to get the smoke crust on it.
Okay.
Pull the bones out, dice it up, hit it in a wok, and you have a taco bowl.
Okay, so this is a beef plate short ribs because there's different types of rib cuts. So what are the different types?
You usually have plate and chuck.
Okay.
Chuck ribs are closer towards the brisket, so they usually have a little more fat on them. The plate ribs are usually a little bigger, so it just kind of depends on where you're at. But for anybody that likes to render their own bone broth, you can take those, you can render them down in a slow cooker and use that.
I was going to say, what is this big beast? This
That's
is a brisket. Okay, is this a flat or is this the whole thing?
That's the flat.
This is the flat. So this is a little bit leaner than the point would be.
The nice thing though, when you cook the flat, as opposed to having the point on there, you're going to get a more uniform cook through the whole piece because you have a more uniform cut.
All right, this is a top sirloin. So what's the
So this is a top sirloin. You guys can see the marbling inside and everything where it comes off the top of the sirloin. So this is your go-to steak for everybody. It's also one of the most flavorful steaks on the animal, in my opinion. The hard part with the sirloin is you can get some connective tissue, which is where a lot of people get turned off.
Okay. And then this is a picanha. And so so a lot of people, I said Brazil, it's a Brazilian style cut, but we call this, a culotte or something like that in the
Yeah,
US?
culotte is one of the names. Other people call it the sirloin cap roast.
Okay.
But if you've ever been to Fogo de Chao and you get those half moon steaks that they slice off, that's a picanha. I usually cook those whole. I usually just smoke them and then carve them similar to a tri-tip. I would say it has a deeper flavor than a tri-tip does, but it also has a little better texture. So it's kind of a dealer's choice. There's another top sirloin.
The top sirloin, so
Yeah.
awesome. So we got a bunch of steaks. I'm gonna be eating good for a while here. Yeah. So another flat meat. So awesome. So we got a bunch of steaks, and well, thank you very much for that sort of description there. So I think maybe let's see if you guys have any questions here. I'm hungry now. I'm hungry. New York strip's my favorite. Do you guys have any questions about meat production, Colorado Craft? Where to get it? Because it's. I see a bunch of people so we've got a couple hundred people in here. I declared close to 200 people sort of paying attention here. So I'm going to go, let me just talk. So we've got, what are we cooking now? We're going to cook.
We've got a pack of fillets and a pack of ribeyes.
All right, so these are already thawed out. So Jeff drove up from Colorado.
I drove up from Oregon today.
Oregon this morning, and so this is, these are ribeyes already thawed out, and these are fillets. And so,
and Tom, we are not grass finished. Where we live in the country, we can't grass finish just based on the climate. But what I will say is we have our own feed yard. Everything is controlled by us. So it's as close to the source with all those other things as you can get.
Yeah, nice. And the flavors, I mean, it's just really good. I got to tell you. I'm going to die any minute now. I need to get sugar in me, but I'm going to eat steak instead. Colorado Craft beef. Big chunk of fat. Yeah, I mean, that's, like I said, I'm not sure, who's responding to what there. It's hard to see on this, but let's cook some of these up. So,
You can buy this at coloradocraftbeef.com.
Okay.
And then the best budget for a steak, if you look, we have a fajita box on the website. That's a lot of secondary steaks, which is going to be skirt, flank, and the bavette. That's usually a pretty good way to go. But you know, for anybody on a budget, the other thing I did a lot when I mean, still 95% carnivore. Shout out to Dr. Baker for helping me lose like 80 pounds. But what I really love doing is taking just 5 or 10 pounds of ground beef and smoking meatballs, and then finding, you know, if you want to use a sauce, you can find no sugar sauces, things to kind of mix that up. But if you can find a lot of creative ways to use burger if you're on a budget.
Oh, nice. So smoking the meatball. That's
Yeah.
nice. I haven't thought about that. My significant, she likes all her meat smoked. She prefers it.
Sure.
I like, sometimes I just like to taste the meat and not the smoke. So,
Yeah.
because I think the flavor is really good. So let me, I'll tell you what,
Somebody's wanting to buy your shirt.
we want to buy this shirt. I don't think we have this one for sale, but maybe we'll get there. I think on my YouTube channel, I think I got some shirts on the YouTube thing. I'm not even sure. I think we do. I smoke meatloaf when I have to. That sounds pretty good. Pretty good
Heck
idea.
yeah. You
Smoked
should give a shot at the stuffed meatloaf.
How does that work?
Just lay a plate down, put your burger on it, put, you know, mushrooms, cheese, something in the middle, lay
Okay.
another layer on top, and then
Okay.
just smoke the whole thing, and it's outstanding.
I never was a big mushroom fan. I do cheese for sure. So.
Yeah.
Let me just bring this little mobile
Yeah.
thing here. We'll go look at the grill. So my grill is a little dirty right now, so you guys will have to pardon me for that.
I believe that's called seasoning, right?
It's called seasoning, right? So let me tilt that down a little so you can see. This is the auto wad. I think I'm going to do that. So I use this thing friggin' all the time. So I'm going to fire this thing up. So for you guys, get that up. I've had this thing for 4 or 5 years now, so I use it friggin' just about in there every day. We can just fire both of these up. So we'll use this one.
Everything.
Get the fire going. We'll get the swank going as well. So we got 2 dueling grills. Let's see if that's going. Yeah, so we got both of these cooking.
I think somebody was asking for a link. We'll put a link to the website in the video notes.
We'll assume that I know how to do that, or you know how to do that.
Somebody will figure it out. I got a marketing guy.
One of us will figure it out. While I figure it out, because I think we'll upload that YouTube video here. I mean, it's going live, so.
There you go.
All right, so big old cutting board. Get some scissors to open that up.
Hey Jason, one of the tricks when you smoke a brisket that can be really fun is you can actually smoke it until it's about 170 degrees internal, and you can put it in the fridge and finish it in the oven, you know, in a couple of days if you don't have time. That's one of the things we do in food service quite a bit.
So what I like, you know, for getting good sear, I just want to dry these things off nicely. My poor dogs are like, they haven't been fed yet. Usually I feed them by now, but I'll feed them their little food, so they won't. They're unlikely to get any scraps of this. They know better with me. They don't get leftovers with me, unfortunately.
Right.
Let me get a paper towel and clean that.
Those things get hot in a hurry.
Yeah, they get like 1,500 degrees within like 2 to 3 minutes, so it's pretty, you know. By the time I get done, you know, just pulling everything out of the packages and patting up. Like often I would sous vide prior to, but these are already not, because I'll usually sous vide from frozen. I'll just throw them in there and sous vide them for an hour or so at like 115 or something like that. But so because these are still a little bit cold, what I may do is I'll probably lower the temperature on these two and just drop these down really low. And I'll throw these in there.
To cook a steak on a skillet. I've got a couple different thoughts with that. Usually I put a little bit of butter, but the one thing you want to make sure you don't do is actually over sauce the pan, because then you're boiling the steak, not actually cooking it. So a little bit of spray to at least crust the outside before you really start to bring the heat to it helps a ton. Butter, ghee, rendered tallow is awesome. Throw a little rosemary in there. That really helps a lot. And the military discount is going to be 10% actually. So let me actually text a guy. Shout out to Jay, the marketing guy that just gets random text messages throughout the day.
So what I'm doing right now is normally, like I said, normally I'll sous vide these things and bring them up to internal temperature, 120. But since I'm not sous videing right now, I'm just going to put these on the auto on a low temperature for a little while. Turn this one down as well. And so I've got the auto wild grill going and a Schwank grill going. Both of these things are top-down ceramic tile style burners that get to 1,500 degrees, and I think this one I gotta leave at full speed, so I'm gonna put this far away. Maybe I turned it off. I turned that one off accidentally. Turn it back on.
All right, for anybody asking about the military discount code, the code is coupon is going to be the word service, SERVICE, and it is good for 10% off on the website as soon as our resident Marine Corps veteran responds to the message, which may or may not be right now.
All right, there you go.
And then for our friend in Canada that just asked about the flap steak, ask for the bavette, BAVETTE, or a bottom sirloin. Those are all three the same cut. Some of it's just vernacular in different regions of the world and what they refer to different steaks as.
Yeah, I've learned, like, the ribeye in Europe, they call it entrecôte for a lot, like France and some of the other places. And then, if you go to Australia, like the porterhouse is like a New York strip. It's kind of weird, like their porterhouse is like a New York. And so, and what's the difference between like KC strip and a New York strip? Some people say one's got a bone, one doesn't. I mean, I've seen different vernacular.
I've heard different butchers argue about what different things are, even though they're in the same industry. So it's interesting because if you start looking even at different regions, a rib steak or a standing rib roast, or like we all consider prime rib. West Coast, it's prime rib, and if you are more East Coast,
what kind of cooking pans you buy. I mean, a lot of people like cast iron. I mean, some people promote it's a stainless steel. I mean, I think either of those can do pretty well.
I actually found some good pans that I bought last year called Eurocast. So they're actually they're relatively inexpensive too, but they're cast iron but non-stick, and then they actually have handles that come off, so you can set them in the oven to finish your pan in the oven, similar to a cast iron, without having a 1,000-degree handle.
Yeah, so like I said, I'm just gonna bring these ribeyes just low up a little bit in the auto, and then I'm gonna crank up the heat, and we're gonna sear it real nice and super hot, so we get a nice. You get particularly with ribeyes because the fat just kind of percolates on the surface, and it just gets a really nice crispy crust on there, and that's what I like, And then these fillets, also, you're not going to get. The fillets are probably one of the leanest cuts, and ribeyes are one of the fattiest cuts. So it's kind of a nice mixture there. So I mean, I guess you could do a bottom round or something like that would be super lean. I do a lot of I'll take. What I've been doing with some of that, I don't know if you do that, but I'll make my own jerky. I've got a meat slicer downstairs and a food dehydrator, and I do like a chuck roast, which has got this nice fat. And because traditionally jerky doesn't have a lot of fat in it. Like we see the grocery store jerky, it's usually like that. And it's often made with like we have choice.
Eye around is really common.
Eye around, but I guess I saw there's in the USDA system, there's obviously Prime, which is the most marble, and you've got choice, and then Select. Probably all you're ever going to see in a grocery store. And then they've got, utility and commercial.
They call it a no roll, is what?
Like
utility canner sometimes, but it's basically something that just doesn't grade.
So that'll end up sometimes in jerky, or it'll end up in canned meat, or maybe you get like that. Remember that like Hormel chili or Dinty Moore?
Pot of meat.
It's just one of the side effects of carnivore. You run relatively low blood glucose. But I'm still functioning. I just got done working out a few minutes ago, so our poor Jeff showed up. All right, so I think it's almost time to crank up the heat on these. With this one, the difference between the Schwank is it's one temperature. With the auto, it's got a little bit more. It's got I can control both sides. You know, like if I had 2 different cuts of meat, we're different thicknesses or something like that. I might want to change that. But this one is just all 100%. You know, 1500 degrees. And so now the best way to the way to change this is I'm just going to raise it, bring it a little closer to the fire, maybe even closer than that.
Yeah. Shout out to our person from Beaverton, Oregon. You know, I'll actually be spending the next 10 days in Pendleton, my hometown, before heading back to the ranch in Colorado.
Turn this one off. There we go.
So what he's adjusting is he's adjusting the height of the steak with regard to the burner, so you get more direct versus indirect heat.
Yeah, so I'm gonna put it. I like to put it about 1.5 inches away from the heat. This is, like I said, this grill is like 1,500, so I can't mess around too long. I gotta, keep a close eye on it. Same thing with this one now. We don't want to burn them. So that's the nice thing is you can get it done really quick, and a really hot heat really traps because it's cooked so fast. You don't render out too much of the fat, so you have all that nice flavor on the inside, which is nice.
I'm not sure what to say about a ribeye smelling like a wet dog. That's probably got to do something with the aging. A lot of the flavor, a lot of the smell you're going to get from a raw steak is actually coming out of the fat. So if you get that gamier flavor, usually it's a high levels of beta carotene in the fat, especially when you start to cook it. That was not my statement. That was somebody else asking why their steak smelled like a wet dog.
Well, these ones definitely don't smell like wet dogs. I've got some dogs here, and when they get wet, they do smell. And they said, why do dogs? So I looked it up one time. Why do dogs that are wet smell a certain way? And it has to do with basically the bacteria in their skin, and that's why they smell like that when they're wet. Do you typically rub yours or season yours much, or how do you typically do that?
I'll typically just do a salt and pepper.
Okay.
Actually, I stole one of your tricks from the last time I was here, just salt and the board, eating it right off the board. It just depends on if it's me eating, one meal a day at the ranch, or if I'm cooking for the family. And
there we go. Speaking of that, I'm going to run in here real quick. I'm going to grab some salt.
Mm-hmm. So some of the other people were talking about air frying steaks. We do have an air fryer at the ranch. I don't know that I can support air frying beef. We air fry the heck out of some bacon, though. That seems to be the best way to not smell up the house making bacon.
Yeah, air fryer for that works pretty good. I think that
I think Michaela Peterson had a really good air frying steak recipe. A buddy of mine was telling me about. I just haven't.
Like I said, I don't think unfortunately the air fryers just don't seem to sear as well.
Yeah.
They don't get as nice of a sear.
Right.
Like you're going to get in this thing, and this thing's going to be probably. So you look at that sear.
That's perfect.
I'll bring that in for you guys to see that. I don't know how well that shows up, but that's a nice sear in my view. Same thing on the other side. You get to just bubbling fat on there.
Mm-hmm.
Can you guys see that? That is so good. My dog is like licking the fat off the ground, so she's not supposed to be doing that.
So somebody just asked about using a convection oven for steak. You can certainly do that. Like if I'm doing a big tomahawk that's 2 or 3 inches thick, I'll put it in the oven at like 220 degrees for 10 or 20 minutes to bring the internal temperature up. But to Dr. Baker's point, you do want to get that external sear, which is the Maillard reaction of starting to char the fat. So if you hammer that just even in a hot pan for 30 seconds aside after you go in the convection oven, you'll really respect the flavor a lot more.
So I'm just using some Malton sea salt. So this is a nice finishing salt. So I'm gonna move over there. So I'll bring the camera if you want to bring the meat over there. We'll just kind of take a peek at this. And so I'm gonna bring this over to the other part of the down a little bit so we can see what we're doing here. So get focused. Can we see the meat with that?
Just about.
Maybe I'll lower this because I'm gonna sit down. I'll lower that down a little bit. You guys see that? Let's back that up a little bit. Yeah, I think we can see that pretty good. Maybe pull a seat up. I'll grab some knives and forks. I'm hungry. Good.
What you think, Del? Yeah, the dog is very optimistic about her opportunity to get some of this.
All right, can you guys, let's see. Can we see everybody? See the party? Back that up a little bit more. Hopefully you guys can see and hear us. Yeah, it looks pretty good. So I'll let you have this. This is a nice knife. This knife came from Canada. It's from Cry Knives out in Canada.
Okay.
So it's a pretty nice one. This is just a Costco deal from Kang Shan. So I'm gonna cut into that fillet first and see how we do with that. So that's probably a nice, it's like a nice medium rare-ish. So it looks pretty good. So you guys can see that. Wow. Very nice, yep. I think whatever cow that came out of, that's a good. And you typically, and you said you use steers. Your preference is to use a steer, right?
It is. You know, the one thing we have to make sure of is when we're, you know, feeding cattle, you really can't feed steers and heifers together.
Why is that?
Because the steers will try to ride the heifers. There's a lot of hormonal stuff going on.
Okay.
And it's just not good for, you know, animal
Safety.
Yeah, there you go. So we have to kind of keep that separate. For the most part, we feed steers. Occasionally, we do have some heifer pens. There's different metabolic reactions with them. Some of them gain better than others. It's just always tracking the data. So. I got to get one of these grills.
What?
That's way easier than firing up a grill, wait for it to heat up. But
Yeah, man. This is that will level up your grill game.
I think your dog thinks I'm a sucker. It's just sitting right here. How you doing, dog? I know.
Dig into this ribeye now. Yeah, that looks to me that's about perfect.
I think you nailed that one. I'm glad I didn't stop for lunch on the way up. I'm glad you texted me like an hour out. When we make some steaks, I was like, that sounds like a great idea.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was waiting because normally I eat a little earlier, but.
When I'm really focusing on one meal a day,
Okay.
I usually eat around 10 or 11, and then just don't eat the rest of the day.
Yeah. A new paper just came out. Actually, you got it on YouTube. It's talking about isoenergetic diets, eating late versus eating early, and they found people that ate earlier did better for a number of different reasons. They had less hunger. They had better sleep, and they had some better cardiometabolic markers. I can't remember all the details I looked at, but I just kind of glanced through that today. I'll probably do a little video on that.
Well, I started wearing this Whoop strap like last April, and you know, if I eat late, you'll watch my sleep patterns are just shot all the heck. They're just horrible,
Yeah.
and it's stuff that I would have never thought about before, you know, learning all this stuff.
These are great. Get on that ribeye.
Even gave me the one with the big cat. My lovely wife loves the ribeye cat. Your glucose should be going up, right?
No, not for a while. Take about an hour for that. Maybe a little bit. Depends how much like it's interesting, a threshold amount of protein will drive glucagon, and that'll drive your glucose up a little bit.
What kind of salt is that?
Malden.
That's interesting. I really like that.
Yeah, it's a flake salt. Comes from the UK, sea salt. It's got a nice flavor. And it just melts into the meat, you know. So it's a finishing salt. A lot of people like to salt prior to or dry brine overnight. I'm kind of, you know, obviously unless I asked you to put the salt on the steaks the night before, which would have been kind of a pain. Considering you're driving them from across the country. But the one, I guess, if you do that in that auto wild, you put a bunch of salt in there, because it gets so hot, it'll just kind of like turn that salt to ash.
Sure.
So it's just not as good. So I like the salt after.
Yeah, I've stolen this trick a few times, just salting the board. Especially if we do like a family style. Like last time I was here, we did family style down on the patio. I went to doing that.
Yeah, just throw the salt on the cutting board ahead of time and throw the meat on top of it, and it works really well. Saves on dishes. It's nice, better on your knives too, because you're cutting. Your knives are cutting. You got nice sharp knives. You're cutting them on plates that tends to beat up the knives a little bit. So hopefully that knife fairly sharp.
It's very sharp. I dig it.
I usually sharpen it every few, I don't know, once a week or so, something like that. Wow, that's good stuff. All right, pardon my savageness, but I'm gonna go and.
It's gonna go full send.
It's always funny when people tell me our teeth aren't designed to eat meat, and I'm like, yeah, whatever.
I don't know. I know horses would have a much harder time eating ribs than we do. I feel bad. I feel like people are asking questions, but I've been very distracted.
You gotta do what you gotta do.
Right? I'm gonna go roll at your jiu-jitsu gym in a few hours. I gotta be properly
nourished.
yeah. I don't know Greg that well, but I've heard stories that he can be kind of savage.
Yeah, he goes pretty hard, yeah. I mean, at least he does with me.
Yeah, I forgot who was, I think somebody was talking about you on Rogan. And they were talking that you'd started jiu-jitsu, and Joe was like, yeah, that's a problem. A man that big that lifts that many weights that's now learning what to do with all of that, that's a problem. I thought that was pretty entertaining.
Well, it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. The cerebral nature of jiu-jitsu is the most entertaining for me, because if you're thinking about business or you're thinking about what you forgot to do that morning, you're going to get choked. Like if you're not in the game, it's great, because I leave and I feel like everything's just been wiped off the table. I can go back to my week.
Well, that was great, guys. Let me. I got to feed the dogs, so I'll show you what I feed the dogs. So let me just get that going, and then I'll feed them out here. So I know they're, like this is a big old box of meat right here. So this stuff's all going to go in the freezer. So there's a big old. I don't know if you guys can see that big old deal of meat there. Let me raise this thing up now. All right, I'll get the dogs fed so you can see, there's the backyard here. You guys can see that's a sauna there. That's a nice sauna, and the backyard. This is one of the reasons I like living up here. It's kind of up on 5 acres in the middle of, out in the middle of Washington. It's a nice area. All right, let me get the dogs fed because Sasha's been talking to me. Sasha's been talking to me for a long time about her food, so I'm gonna get her food going. Be right back. I'll show you guys. Let me show you guys, I'll get the food going. I'll show you guys what we're doing with the dogs. So people ask me about what to feed dogs. Well, I will tell you, I mean, dogs obviously, they do great on meat. Dogs will thrive on meat. They're basically wolves. I mean, wolves, for the most part, eat, almost a fairly significant carnivore diet. Let me just show you what the dog. So this is a big old plate of, this is just a big old bowl of ground beef and ground turkey. And why? I mean, I've just played with over time. This is what they really like. And it's leaner than what a human would eat. And why is it important that dogs eat a little bit leaner? Well, dogs have smaller brains than we do, and they have less energy requirements. Our large brain is what drove us to require, a more energy intense diet. And so that's why humans really do well on animal fat. Whereas dogs, they need the protein for sure. They just don't eat quite as much fat. And so the big bowl is for Sasha. She's about a 45-pound English golden, and Maximus he's about 17, 18-pound Coton de Toulier. And so his food I give him a little bit less. And I'll typically throw, just because I like it, I've got a little desiccated chicken that I'll throw in there with it. So let me grab that. I'll grab that out of the cabinet. So these are actually coming from Costco. These are little dried out little chicken strips, and I'll throw it in there for both dogs. And let me just see, I'm gonna bring this out there and I'll feed it. You guys can, I guess you're gonna watch the dogs eat. I'm sure that'll be exciting for you, but anyway, let's do that. So, Sasha, come here, girl. Anyway. All right, Maxie, this is yours. There you go. There's Sasha. There you go. Sasha here. There you go. Sasha and Maxie can be right here. Go ahead, Maxie. Eat your stuff, boy. He always kind of takes his time and then he gets going, but looks at it, sniffs it around. But Sasha just gorges it down. So Jeff, you get enough to eat, man?
I did.
All right, nice. That was damn delicious. So anyway, let's just kind of let's see. So if you guys have any questions, just ask a question or so if you got questions about anything. So obviously Jeff is visiting up from Colorado. He brought a bunch of meat. He's on his way to go do some jiu-jitsu. Hey, Dr. Baker, I want to add more meat to my diet, but I just can't stand the taste and smell of meat. Well, I don't know this, Catherine. I don't know what your, I hear that occasionally. I always think kiddingly mental illness, but no, I'm just kidding. I think, sometimes this is where, sometimes you might initially start with, one of the things, a lot of people that grow up with eating meat that's not really cooked well, not prepared well, or just poor quality. A lot of people do that, and they're used to, they get shoe leather, overcooked, really lean meat, and I think sometimes that is an issue. Sometimes, you might have to put different sauces and seasonings and flavors initially if you're not used to it. And then, it really becomes something that you start to, as you eat more meat, particularly good meat. And that's something I think, and like Jeff's meat, the Colorado Craft is outstanding. So it's just like that by itself is so to go with that. But when are you going to interview that 82-year-old rancher from Alberta? Yeah, Maggie White. I don't know. I guess I should. I should. I've talked about her a few times. I know she's aware of the fact that, and I know she knows who I am and stuff like that. So hopefully we'll get a chance to. Are you familiar with that gal?
I'm not.
She's 82. She's a rancher from Alberta. She's been ranching her whole life. She literally looks like she's 60, man. She's still 82, working the ranch. She's thinking of getting ready to move down to Colombia or somewhere to open a new ranch because she's getting tired of getting screwed over in Canada with the ranchers and stuff like that. So she's learning Spanish at 82, starting and picking up a new language, and she's
good for her.
She literally looks like she's about 60. I think anyway. So
yeah.
So anyway, so.
Yeah, and I think your comment, with people not liking the flavor and texture of meat, sauces and other things you can do are huge.
Yeah.
One of my go-tos, especially the smoked meatballs, is if you find the Parmesan garlic wing sauce, no carbs, no sugar, just read the labels, man. Some of those sauces that taste great are full of junk. So, I mean, be diligent with that, and then don't hesitate to mix and match and play with some different stuff.
Yeah. I saw. Oh, I can scroll back. Cool. So this is Coco Brown Eyes. Is 46 years old, 279-pound diabetic. Best way to start carnivore ASAP. I mean, here's what I would say. I mean, I don't know what your diet is now, but if you're 479 pounds, it probably wasn't doing carnivore. I mean, but I mean, and it's interesting right now on Twitter, and I know you mentioned you get a lot of response from Twitter. There's a whole bunch of big people like 400, 500 pounders that are just on carnivore and they're just killing it. I mean, they're losing 100 pounds. 6 months they've lost 100 pounds. 9 months they've lost 150 pounds. Stuff like that. So. That is something that I think has been very effective. And I think really what I've talked about this over and over again, why is carnivore so helpful? I think it helps people to overcome food addiction because, you don't get to 400 pounds, typically without binge eating disorder or food addiction, and you're just eating lots and lots of processed food. And because it's hard to quit that stuff because it's so tasty and it's everywhere and it's cheap. So I tell people with carnivore, just eat meat like it's your job. Eat enough to where you just don't want that other stuff. How much do I need to eat? Eat enough so you don't want a donut or a cupcake or a pizza or whatever it might be. And that might be 3, 4, 5, 6 pounds of meat for sometimes. And you're not maybe do that so you don't want the other stuff. Spend 2 or 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, whatever it takes to get over that food addiction, and then you can start doing whatever. But in the beginning, like you'd mentioned, you might need to use.
There's a correction. 279.
279. Okay.
So,
well, still, regardless.
Well, you're in good shape. That's 40 pounds lighter than I was when I met you.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
that was a while ago.
Yeah. So, but I mean, it was. I don't know how tall you are, and if you're a male, female. I mean, if you're a 279-pound, 5'3" woman is a big different than a 6'5" dude, right? So the same weight. So I mean, I'm.
Well, and the one thing that helped me a lot with the weight loss, going carnivore was the easy part. Yeah. Fighting the cravings was really hard.
Right.
And what I learned was you almost have to overeat fat to get that satiety, so you're not craving something else.
Yeah, that's a thing that a lot of people, and this is something that happens initially, that you have to eat enough. You have to eat enough energy because you're craving energy, and you're so used to getting it from a bowl of ice cream or a Snickers bar or something like that. And when you initially transition, you're not getting that carbohydrate, that quick sugar fix. You're going to struggle with cravings and energy, and so sometimes you have to overeat energy or eat enough energy or eat adequate energy, and that may be in the fat. And like this ribeyes, we had lots of fat there. Great, I mean, so good, so tasty, so flavorful. Particularly if it's cooked.
What's your thought? So one of the things I struggled with was I got bored on carnivore early.
Yeah.
So I would like those LaCroix sparkling waters to get some different flavor.
Sure.
Or Element, Rob Wolf's stuff.
Right.
What other stuff do you recommend? Because that's where my flavor palette, all the crap that I was eating, I had to get pulled back from that. So what things can people use to get that satiety and help with that craving?
Well, I mean, like I said, there's like some people I miss the crisp and the crunch, and so what I found, I've got in fact, my girlfriend just took them with her to work because she wants them, but I'll like for the crisp flavor. A lot of people use pork rinds and things like that. That's okay. I mean, that's okay. That's fine. You use it at the beginning. I mean, it wouldn't be something I'd live on, quite honestly. But I'll take like a chuck roast, and I'll slice it thin, and I'll put it in a food dehydrator and dry it out. You can do it in the oven. You can do it in the oven on low at 160 for 6-8 hours, and you'll get probably a similar result. So you don't need a food dehydrator, but food dehydrators are not, But I've got a food dehydrator. I've got a meat slicer too, which helps. But you can do it. I mean, if you take the meat and you put it in the freezer for an hour or two, so it's firm, it's a lot easier to slice than if it's really thawed out. Slice it thin, salt it up, food dehydrator. It'll get crispy and dry. It'll dry out. It'll get crispy with a little bit of fat on there. That is just such a good snack food. That's a good thing. Like you mentioned, the LaCroix waters and things like that. I'll do.
Sorry, did I go super uber redneck by pronouncing it incorrectly?
Well, I don't know. I mean, my significant other is French, so she would probably say LaCroix. But I don't know. I mean, it's whatever.
So one of the questions that just came through: does fat push down the cravings?
It can. For a lot of people, it does. Yeah, because it's energy. I mean, you're trying to get energy. So
what I found was if I ate enough fat, it would actually stop me eating. For the first time in the history of my life, my body said, "You don't need any more food."
What I find, like for instance, it's weird, like different cuts of meat. Like for me, the one that I have a hard time eating a lot of is like a fatty brisket. When I first eat, I'm like, oh yeah, it's so good. But I get about 2 pounds into it, and that sounds like a lot. But I mean, I can eat 2 pounds of brisket, or not brisket, like ribeye, like for whatever reason, I can eat that like nothing. But I mean, 2 pounds of brisket, I'm like, oh, I'm stuffed. So it's interesting. Some cuts of meat have that really satiety effect, and I think that in the beginning, use seasonings, use things like cheese and stuff like that. Again, it may not be your ultimate thing, go-to long-term strategy, but in the beginning, the transition to carnivore, I say use a variety, seafood, pork, dairy, eggs, cheese, bacon, seasoning, whatever, just to get you away from the pizza and the pasta and the beer and the cupcakes and the cookies. Do that for a while until you've kind of kicked those cravings and that addiction away, and then you can start to dial in. Maybe you end up cutting some dairy, maybe you don't eat quite as much fat. But in the beginning, that's what I would do, and that's been successful.
Yeah. What I had to learn was what worked for me. Was like what my biology allowed for, in a place that left me in a mental space that I could be there for my wife and my girls, instead of going from being overweight and dominated by food in a negative way to how am I eating and is food dominating me now in a positive way. You've got to find that internal balance, and that was the hardest part for me.
Okay, so I'm gonna see. I'm just figuring out how to scroll back and see some of these questions. Butter coffee helps.
The bulletproof coffee.
Yeah, I mean that's something that I think is a transition thing. Opinions on indefinite or long-term ketosis, especially for athletes. I think it's fine. I think you can certainly do it. It's one of those things that. One thing, the definition of ketosis, if you look at the Steve Finney's Jeff Folick initial nutritional ketosis definition, was 0.5 millimolars, right? And what I see a lot of times with athletes is they don't usually reach those levels a lot of times, because what happens is you'll produce ketones, right? And in the early phases, those ketones will stay around in your blood, and you'll basically breathe them out or pee them out or something like that, in the form of urine ketones. But as you get more efficient at utilizing ketones, you won't actually have real high ketone levels a lot of times, particularly athletes. So, and you're still using glucose, and you're still, you're never on a pure only ketone fuel source. You've always, like my blood glucose, even though it's low right now, I keep getting warnings from my CGM, my blood glucose is low. It's still not zero. It's 50, 60, something like that. So anyway, here's somebody saying the carnivore cure. So they give you $10, looks like.
Wow.
The Carnivore Diet saved my life. I was 715 pounds. Holy cow, that's big. 715. Stuck in a chair over for 2 years. That was 11 months ago. I'm down 230 pounds.
It's outstanding.
That's awesome, man. That's wonderful. I've gone down and mobile. And so like I said, obviously you're still going to be 485 or so with that weight loss. That's awesome.
What a great trend.
No, that's awesome. And you're just kind of, I saw a gal, there's a guy named Hal Kramer, who runs nursing homes in Phoenix. And he had people that were sent to him that were bariatric patients, basically sent to die, basically. You're like 600 pounds, you can't walk. He had a gal that was 5 something. In 6 months, she dropped 200 pounds.
Yeah.
This is amazing. It's amazing with carnivore. So it's just so good for you, man. Carnivore cure. That's awesome, man. That's so awesome to hear. We'll see how you do. Maybe we'll interview you. That'd be fun to interview you, see how you're doing, man. If you want to hop in there, I'll tell you what. You might want to send a message to what is it? Community at what is it? Community at Community at Revero.com will get you there. I know. I'm supposed to tell people one particular address. I keep forgetting. I always get yelled at. You sent them to the wrong address. But anyway, it's all right. I'm okay with that. All right, what else we got here? Good day from Queensland, Australia. There you go. Is all meat good on carnivore like turkey or tuna? It's certainly on the table. You may find that you may not enjoy it as much. I can't remember the last time I had turkey. Mm-hmm. My dogs had turkey. My dogs eat it. It's leaner. It's just a little too lean for me.
Well, I notice when I eat red meat consistently, and then if I do, pork loin or something, I'll actually retain water. My hands will swell up.
Interesting.
So what I've found is you've got to find your baseline and then see how your body responds.
Yeah. Yeah, I think all meat and seafood are good. Yeah, I mean, as a general rule, yes, you can try whatever you want. And you just have to see how you do. Some people don't do well with pork. Some people don't do well with chicken. Some people don't do well with turkey. Some people don't do well with seafood. Most people do pretty well with red meats, particularly lamb and beef. Some people don't prefer lamb. I just got back from Greece. I had a lot of lamb. The lamb there was really good. I really enjoyed the lamb. But my significant other didn't like it. She's like, I don't like this lamb. I want some beef. And so as soon as we got home, she was like, give me some beef, And the beef in Greece just wasn't as good, I have to say. The beef in France was decent. I've had, like I said, I've been in different countries. Here's another one. Was a Carno last year. 40 pounds fell off. This is Carlos Y. The diet last fall. Haven't been able to get back on, struggling to stick with it until the palate shift. Well, I mean, like I said, I think a lot of people will see that they do well, they get off for whatever reason, and then a lot of people come back because they realize it's the best they've ever felt, which I think is, pretty common. You just have to kind of like see what you can. There's a lot of ways and a lot of different. Like I said, it's simple for me. Give me a ribeye steak or like we said, a ribeye and a fillet. I'm good. I'm like, man, I'm good. I don't need anything else. Mm-hmm. That's a thing. But a lot of people will find that there's recipes they like to use, and there's just different carnivore breads and carnivore things. You can look at our website at Carnivore.diet has a bunch of recipes you can use. I don't use them that much, but certainly you can certainly do that. All right, the Carnivore says, I'll email you, be happy to do an interview. Awesome, man. We'll look forward to it, man. So maybe we'll get one done here in the next couple weeks or something. I can't remember my schedule. I know my scheduler has got me booked out for a while, but we'll get it on there. That'll be fun. All right, what else here? What time is it, by the way?
It is 1:05.
1:05. Okay, so we got a little time left. Thoughts on young animals versus old animals? I feel much more satiated on old animals as far as maybe you can talk more to me on that, Jeff. I mean, your cows are probably going to 18 months or something like that. Is that typical?
18 to 24 is typical.
18 to 24.
So
why is that the industry standard typically? I mean, I guess you get them to a certain level of marbling, and you're like, okay, it's not cost. It makes no sense cost-wise to keep feeding them longer, right?
So the majority of the beef cattle, especially in the U.S., are 18 to 24 months or so. Right. Anything you're seeing a grade on, so choice, select, prime, is under 30 months of age. Otherwise, you can't get graded. So there's a lot of different things at play with that. Feeling more satiated on older animals, if we're talking about the cattle space, man, I would have to talk to my wife on that. She's more the scientist. Okay. But you're going to have a lot.
Isn't there like some concern around BSE, bovine spongiform encephalopathy?
That's the 30-month mark.
With animals, so animals that are really old are more likely to have mad cow. I mean, that's one thing. I think it's still super, super rare regardless.
Absolutely.
But I mean, that's one of the things about that. So interesting.
Yeah.
I tend to stay away from ground beef because I want cheese on those. It's temptation. Yeah, it's pretty easy to put a piece of cheese on a hamburger patty, and then for some people, cheese is a slippery slope. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the other thing you're going to have with a lot of, and you might know more about this, is in older animals, the connective tissue has hardened. You're going to have more collagen.
I don't know that I've said, this is the first time I've ever seen somebody make that comment about being more satiated in old animals. So I don't know if it's a common thing. Honestly, it's not that common to get older animals, at least in the U.S. I mean, there may be some other countries where they do that. I've seen, some people will take retired dairy cows and fatten them up, and I've seen that. There's a Carter Country Meats out in Wyoming.
Yeah, RC's a good dude.
He does that, so he does that.
Yeah, 3 to 4 year old cows typically.
Right.
Is his standard, it's more the yellow fat, and it's a little gamey. And well, he's in 10 Sleep, Wyoming. There's no corn up there.
Okay, that's right, 10 Sleep. Yeah. So it's interesting. Okay, severely obese, but 60 days on carnivore and down 40 pounds. This is Adam and Eve and Judy family. Great, but I just can't get myself to exercise. I've had recurring cellulitis in my legs, but not since going carnivore. Yeah, well, I mean, what I would do, exercise. I'm a huge proponent of exercise. I think everybody should exercise, but you may not be there yet. I mean, just give it some time. What I would tell you to do is just try to minimize sedentary behavior for now. So if you spend all day sitting, try to stand. I don't know if you're working or not, but I mean, if you're working, standing desk, just get out and walk a little bit. Just start with that. And then as you lose more weight, as your inflammation goes down, as your body feels better, then you can start transitioning to more sort of exercise behaviors, and then start to, to adapt your body to the things you want to do. Because when you are fit and strong and in shape, life is a lot easier. It's just even the day to day stuff is easier. Okay.
And I do have an update. Our marketing guy just got back to us. The service code for military is live at a 10% discount.
Okay.
As well as the Carnivore Diet discount code that we have with Revero.
Okay.
That's
okay.
also
So tell me
a
that.
10% discount.
So if you're military, you can use the code what? Service to get a 10% discount on Jeff's meat at Colorado Craft. And if you're carnivore, what's the code there? Do you remember?
Carnivore Diet, all one word.
Oh, Carnivore Diet. So if you're on the Carnivore Diet and you want to use the code, so that would be most of you guys. So you can go to Colorado Craft. And I will tell you without any, not because he's here or because of anything, their meat tastes really, really good. I really, really enjoy it. It's really good stuff. I always look forward to eating it. It's just like, I like most meat. I mean, there's some meat that's better than others. It's always good for the most part, but there's some that's like almost like religious experience good, and you're like, oh my God, this is like, like sometimes you eat some of the like super ridiculous high-end Wagyu, and you're just like, oh,
yeah,
you can't eat much of that. But I mean, for a good like day-to-day, like if I was eating Colorado Crypt every day, I'd be a happy man. I would be like, this is great. I mean, there's nothing wrong. There's nothing, nothing bad about that. Okay, I talked from Portugal. When I eat a cow with more than 4 years, the fat tastes much better and I feel more satiated. I don't know why, from Portugal. Yeah, I don't know. I was in Portugal in April. I thought the meat there was quite good. I had some really good meat. I had some good seafood, by the way. You guys have great seafood in Portugal as well. Okay. Linda, okay. Let's see if we got any other questions here.
I thought there was one further up.
58 days strict carnivore. Yesterday was the first day I wanted exercise. I did countertop push-ups and some lunges. I'm 65 and morbidly obese, says Ann. Well, Ann, good for you. That's a start. Like I said,
I hate lunges. Lunges are horrible.
Lunges are tough. I never do lunges. I do all kinds of legs, but I've never done stuff. But yeah, that's where you go. Just starting. The tabletop push-ups are fine. You eventually progress to a lower height, and you'll get there. So good for you. That's awesome.
There's one more up where they actually called you by name. I saw it go by a minute ago.
Carnivore. What did they say? Zacharoni, 5-year carnivore animal base, and my family is thriving. They wanted to take my gallbladder and give me a poop bag 6 years ago. I'm doing better than ever and still have all my parts. Yeah, I mean, the gallbladder, I'm not, the poop bag thing, I mean, that's usually a colostomy or ileostomy or something like that. And I'm not sure all the details on it, but I'm glad you're doing it better. And it's one thing, I mean, carnivore has been extremely good about gastrointestinal diseases. I think it's, like inflammatory bowel disease, IBS and things like that. That's been really, really, really awesome. So, not sure how this thing works. Okay, it's the Carnivore Cure. Sorry, where do I find your email? I didn't see it in the About section. Just go to community@revero.com. Community@revero.com. That will get you in touch with like the social media, social manager for the thing that sets up all the podcasts. So community, right? 44. All right, so that's Carnivore Cure guy. Carnivore with almost 90 days down, 40 pounds, still hungry after 3.5 pounds of beef. Do I eat more? Yes. There you go. Beef with Nick. Just eat some more, I mean, and you may have, there may be days where you throw down 4, 5, 6 pounds of beef, depending how big you are. Mm-hmm. But you're not going to do that 10 days in a row. You might do it for a couple days and all of a sudden you'll be like, okay, I'm good. And I found like for me, like the times when I get really hungry is when I'm training really hard. Like when I'm training hard and really getting after it, like my appetite goes through the roof, and I will often, just whatever, eat 6 pounds. Sometimes that happens.
Well, I think the big deal is getting to the point that you're going to have the ability to feel what your body's telling you.
Right. Exactly.
When I was super overweight and eating like total crap, I didn't know how bad I felt until I started eating clean, and I was like, oh my gosh, you eat something and you just feel lethargic for 2 days. Well, you'll get there, though, for sure.
Okay, absolutely relative. Says, question, lost 50 pounds on Ketovore plus intermittent fasting, now a bit plateauing. Tried 12 plus 36 fast, still can't break next 5 pounds. 51 years old, premenopause. Well, you know, obviously, like obviously the menopausal stuff is kind of a monkey wrench that throws into things, and so. But what I would suggest, perhaps, you know, is a lot of people in here with these questions. I find that for me, and for many people, that certainly, you know, if you're doing strength training, you know, you're going to put on more muscle, that's going to weigh more. So that's good. That's a good thing. I think your weight, the number on the scale is not the ultimate dictator of where you should be. It should be more function, body composition, so on and so
Well,
forth.
what were we talking about when I got here? I'm actually up in weight from the last
Oh,
time I
yeah,
was
you
here
put on
last
more
year,
muscle,
but
yeah.
I'm carrying muscle in place.
Yeah,
that
I mean,
never
you
had.
look better this year than last year, but you're even heavier. So
Yeah.
that's fine. So, I mean, there's part of that. That may be the case. The other thing I would look at is, you know, I find like I have very good success with fat cycling for weight loss. So what I'll do is I'll eat, you know, leaner cuts for a couple days. You know, I might eat like, you know, in the context, you know, like sirloins instead of ribeyes for a couple days. And then on the fourth day, throw the ribeyes back in. And you just kind of do that, and you know it kind of works well. You can't go lean for too long. If you go lean for 10 days in a row, you're going to be miserable. Your thyroid's going to start slowing down. You're going to get hungry. You're going to binge. So just a little bit of that with the exercise. I mean that's something. I mean I know I've got a carnivore shred program on the Carnivore Diet, which goes into more detail, but that's kind of the basics of that. Let me go to. We got a whole bunch of more questions coming in here. And the other thing, I'll just, you know, I'll put a plug in for Revero. This is, you know, the company is getting ready to, you know, start actually seeing patients finally after about a year of building the program. And so waiting list, people that have cardiometabolic disease, obesity, diabetes, metabolic syndrome, that is something that we've got physicians that oversee everything, intensive coaching, all that stuff. So that's an option for some of you guys that might be thinking about that. So go to Revero.com and get on the waiting list. I think I want to say we have about 1,000 people already on the waiting list, which is really cool. I'm excited about that. So anyway, what else we have? Charles Bronson have the same question. Okay, why does Dr. Sinclair say meat does not contribute to longevity? He says eating vegetables is linked to longevity. And he likes meat, but is saying sepsis. Well, here's the deal. I mean, first of all, I don't know what's going to cause people to live the longest. I don't think anybody really actually knows. I mean, we have all these sort of longevity gurus, whether it's Aubrey de Grey or Dave Asprey or David Sinclair or, you know, you name the person. They've been looking at this stuff forever, and they've never been able to produce fit, robust people, you know, beyond much more than about 85 years of age. So I think the whole field is based on pure speculation. So I don't know. I don't know if a carnivore is going to make me live longer or shorter. Honestly, I'm not that concerned about that. I mean, I think that, there's pretty good evidence that not being sick with disease is incredibly important, not only for today, because, you know, I mean, you could do all these things like this guy, Brian Johnson, the blueprint billionaire guy that spends $2 million a year trying to, you know, drink his son's blood or whatever he's doing to try to reverse aging. He could do all that stuff and get hit by a bus, you know, and it's like, well, what's the point, right? So, I mean, I think you have to focus, number one, on getting healthy right now so that everything you experience for the next 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, however long you're going to live is good, you know, so that you feel good. You know, we know that people that don't have heart disease, that don't have arthritis, that don't have dementia, that don't have diabetes are generally going to live longer. And so we know that, and people, and lean mass, and that's another thing, it's a great predictor of longevity. Having, you know, lean mass in the top 25% of your age cohort is going to be good for longevity. Now, beyond that, it all becomes speculation as far as I'm concerned. So I wouldn't, as far as, you know, if you want to think you're going to live longer eating a vegetarian or vegan diet, you know, you can do that. But I mean, certainly the answer is we don't really know, and you're probably going to, you know, sacrifice some quality of life. And I think that's a real problem. So, I mean, I know, like, I can take people that are sick, diabetic, overweight, you know, depressed, and make them not that. And I think that's where we want to focus. And then, you know, if you live an extra 3 years or 5 years, we really don't know. There's no way to test it out, because all of the advice that David Sinclair gives people and all the supplements he may sell you, there's no money back guarantee. If you drop dead at 72, he's not going to give you your money back. you know, or if you live to 75 and you say, well, I'm sad, you know, your family says, well, he only lived to 75. I says, well, if he didn't listen to me, he would only live to 71. So it's just kind of a nonsense type of thing. Well, it's been a long time since you've been live. It has been a little while since I've been live, particularly on YouTube. So I've been on live with a couple of the other things, but not that much. So what are your thoughts on lean mass hyper responders, says Nancy Mello? Well, it's interesting. You know, that's for those who aren't familiar, that's Dave Feldman's work, and he's getting some good data on that. He's got baseline data on the study. So lean mass hyper responders are people that have low triglycerides, elevated HDL, and very, very high LDL cholesterol, and they're often lean. You know, and so they have pretty good cardiometabolic markers, except for the high cholesterol. And the people that are cardiologists and lipidologists says it doesn't matter. These people are going to be at high risk for heart disease. And there's other people that are saying that, wait a minute, we don't know that. Let's see if we look at the data. And so far, the data that Dave has produced, 100 people, all of them, you know, average age, mid-50s, average LDL cholesterol like 275, you know, top 1% of highest cholesterol. And so far, you know, after 4 years of baseline data, they have very low levels of cardiovascular burden. So, I mean, they seem to be not producing atherosclerotic disease. Now he's going to track them for another year with high-end imaging, coronary, CAT scan coronary angiography, both at the beginning and at the end, and we'll see. That data will be all the data will be acquired by February of this coming year, so February 2024, and then he'll analyze the data and probably have it out there probably by next summer, I'd say. So, but it seems like, you know, it's going to be favorable. We'll have to see for sure. Goodness, we've been going live for an hour and 15 minutes. So I'll tell you what, guys, we're going to wrap up here in about another 5 minutes. So if you guys got any more questions, we'll go ahead and do that. Sous vide plus weed torch for the win.
Absolutely.
I've not done that method. Have you got one of those little torches?
I've had it like that.
Yeah.
I don't use that, but I mean, I could go high end at the ranch and use an oxyacetylene cutting torch. But I feel like that might
What's the temperature on that go?
Like, if you get the right blue flame, it's, you know, I think it's 1800 or something.
Wow, okay,
But
well, that might be fun. Yeah, I mean, I would, you know, I've got a good setup here that works pretty well for me, but I'm off, you know, that looks cool where you get that big torch and just, you blow everything on there.
we can't do that where we live. We're going to burn the prairie down. So.
That's true. You might get in trouble there. I had one of those weed killers at my old house because I would get all these goat heads. You know, the goat heads.
Oh, yeah.
You know, those things are awful, man. You step on those things, and they put holes in tires. I mean, like bike tires and stuff. So, you married, says Jackie. I guess I don't know if you're talking to me. I know Jeff is married. I am more or less. I mean, I've got a girlfriend for the last 10 years, so we're effectively married. We're not officially married, but you know. Anyway. Walu, great to see you live. Learned a lot from your greetings from the Netherlands. Well, hopefully in the Netherlands they don't shut down all the farms. That's something that's you've been seeing some of that stuff.
I have. You know, there's this old adage that, you know, once in your life you need an undertaker, once in your life you need a banker, once in your life you need a lawyer, but 3 times a day you need a farmer.
Yeah,
so
exactly. People
don't forget about that because there's going to be problems.
Yeah, I mean you're gonna be eating bugs from a factory if not. So anyway, support. So guys, I'll just close up. So Jeff is the proprietor of Colorado Craft Beef. They have tremendous beef. He came up to town, dropped off some beef. We had a nice meal. I mean, just in general, and I think Jeff would agree with that as well. And then
100%.
if you want a good one that ships to all 50 states, Colorado Craft is outstanding. I eat their beef all the time, and it's wonderful, and it's a great value, and it's delicious. And there's some discount codes. Carnivore Diet you can use that if you're carnivore. If you're military, use service. So Carnivore Diet and service are the discount codes. All right, guys. Thanks, everybody. We will talk to you down the road. I'll figure out how to end this thing. I think like that.
There you go.